now you're reflecting on something that you think could have prevented or at least prolonged the funk volume split.
The other sentiment that I didn't express is that I shouldn't fucking have to do that. What's going on, MEC family? Welcome to another episode of the Music Entrepreneur Club 2.0, where we have some very candid conversations about traveling this crazy music industry. Obviously, there's a million ways to make it in the music industry. That's why we think a conversation is necessary, and we have that right here. And I got my co-host, Erinn Knight, DJ Payne 1. I'm Damien Ritter. I like to start out with a win, to let people know that we really do this, or at least have a foot still in this. Payne, what's your win for the week?
Played an amazing homecoming show with Ted Park. So he's from out here. He moved, and then he came back. And the cool part about that was that the show is put on by a nonprofit that I've been a part of, a founding member of, in fact, and we've been running for well over a decade. And so this is our fourth year, I believe, third or fourth year. It's crazy, I don't know that, of our music festival. So, we're fighting a lot of, I don't want to use the R word right now, but we're fighting a lot of that in the city. And that was a big part of why we came together to begin with, just to create opportunities and spaces for a certain demographic to perform and get professional opportunities as artists, and then also have a space. And yeah, we packed it out. Ted was a headliner. We had Wave Chappelle there. We had Spell Red. We had Ducky there. We had Lil Naja there, who's this little kid that raps, super cute. And it was a success. So, and then we got a bunch of music done, of course, because he came 4 days early.
I think I saw either you or maybe you guys collabed on a post. I saw it this morning. Good stuff. Erinn, what you got for us this week?
I'm stoked because I announced a 1 year anniversary blowout in Austin for the Comtech company that I own called Warialato. Our 1 year is technically the first week of November, but we did a soft launch last week of October. So we announced a new event series. First iteration will be our 1 year celebration, and in 8 hours, we sold 100 tickets, which I'm super excited about. It's an indoor, outdoor, really big experience. Our goal is 1,000 tickets. So I'm hoping that we sell 500 or 600 before doors and then the rest come. But that was just super encouraging to be dang, okay, people are really rocking with us in the city of Austin. We really have
I was like, what? I didn't know what that was.
Thank you, Paige.
I was like,
we have effects. We can use them.
I rock with that. We really built and fostered community. So, it's encouraging. I have two business partners in that. One, Brandon, my co-owner of Bill John Dreams. And this is kind of a seeded project out from that. So I'm just really encouraged to see stuff is just continuing to grow and level up. It's great to be here.
Dope. And on my side, we've had a lot of people reach out to work with Big Ja in different capacities. So we have a lot of options on the table. So we're kind of weighing those options and kind of beefing. We need to beef up the team so that we're putting out a lot more content consistently. So I think that's just finding the right partner so that we can have one project start and then the other one. And once it comes out, we're already kind of in motion to release the next project. So we just have continuous motion. So I'm excited because some very some quality folks have reached out. So that on the Big Ja side, we have another idea that got generated internally here on Two Lost by the homie Dion. We're going to start doing, we're just going to rent out a studio for a day here locally in LA and just have a bunch of creators come through early October. If there's people listening to this from LA, more details about that will be rolled out soon. But I think that's a good time to mention that this episode is brought to you by Two Lost. If you want to get 3 months free music distribution, all you need to do is use the code MEC and try it out. Even after that, it's $3 a month. And then also, if you live in Atlanta, DC, Philly, or New York, the Game from the Gods show is coming your way. Just go to gamefromthegods.com. Looking forward to that. So there's still a lot of prep for that because, we have a good idea of how it's going to run. And we know that eventually, we'll find a good run of show. But there's still a lot of details that we need to sort out for that. But it's going to be a good time. Lots of fun. Come out. But we got some good topics today. I don't even think we talked about everybody's topics before we jumped on here. But let's just jump right into it. I like surprises. Who wants to start?
Well, you were talking about getting a team up for Big Josh. So I think that naturally leads into your topic because that's something that, damn near every time I log in to YouTube and just look at comments on an MEC episode or even a clip that I post on my channel, there's someone hating on Dame over the Funk Volume split. And people, if there's nothing meaningful in their lives to replace things that happened when they were teenagers, then they hold on to things that happened when they were teenagers. They do it could have made the football team, stupid shit like that. So there are a lot of people like that, but instead of the football team, for them, it's, Funk Volume. But it's something I covered on a recent episode of one of my own videos because there's a Ren versus Cujo Beats controversy, and all of Ren's fans just pretty much harassed the producer who I'm not taking sides. I think they both did wrong, and this guy certainly, the producer certainly did a lot of wrong and made some missteps. But when you have 1 million fans all harassing one person, it's it's sick, especially when the context was mental health awareness. It was really hypocritical. But having said all that, I was reminded of what happened with Funk Volume, and you went through all of that. And so when you and Hobson had the sit down podcast where you cleared the air, and Hobson pretty much admitted, I was a very toxic person, and that led to all of this miscommunication. Now you're reflecting on something that you think could have prevented or at least prolonged the Funk Volume split.
Yeah, and I can talk about it, or we can just pull up the clip because it was something that I said on Ray Daniels' podcast, The God Show. But there's a whole nother piece to that I don't even think I said on the podcast. Just a whole other sentiment. Because basically what I said in the clip is, there we go. We can pull
to up and coming managers, like, to try to avoid.
One thing that I think I could have done was brought in a second voice that was authoritative but respected. For the most part, it was me and the artist. So no matter what, even if I was right 100% of the time, they're hearing my voice say it all the time. And I know that at some point that's just going to get annoying.
We don't talk enough about how artists get tired of hearing the same voice and they start rejecting.
You can stop it, Payne.
The voice becomes...
So I still agree that could have prolonged things. The other sentiment that I didn't express is that I shouldn't fucking have to do that. Like, I just don't feel like managers should have to do that. You should have a great relationship with the creator that you're working with. You should be able to deliver feedback. That person should know you're coming from a good place and that you guys are really just trying to, paddle in the same boat in the same direction. And it's increasingly more important now because there's a lot more independent teams, or independent teams need to be built in order to be successful. Because I think even during the Funk Volume days, there was more people in major label situations willing to put up with your shit just to kind of keep things going. I don't know if now things have shifted more independently where it's kind of on you to build out your team and for managers to build their skill set and for everything to kind of work together. I don't know if artists can just tap out just because they don't like a particular voice, and if you do tap out, I think the team's just going to fall apart. But that's probably why I'm not managing too many folks today. I have a great relationship with Ja. I can talk to him. He knows it's coming from a good place. We don't ever yell at each other or anything like that, but it's not, the sound of my voice. I don't feel like I'm not building the team because I do feel like I need to build out the team because sometimes as you're working with artists, your voice doesn't communicate the same sense of urgency. So I think I need to bring in other people to kind of but that to me is different than what I was talking about in this clip particular. So I think artists kind of need to just kind of check themselves sometime, if possible, if and when possible. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about that clip, or just the sentiment that I left out, and maybe, your experience.
I completely agree with what you're saying. I think we discussed it a little bit before on here, where you brought that up, like bringing in a second voice. And I always was like, oh, that's a cool concept. But for me, it feels like it creates even more conflict, because it's like, why is it that if it comes from them, you will listen and not me? And I understand, like Ray says in that clip, like, people don't talk about how artists get tired of hearing the same voice. But then the very next thing he says is they think that, you could be coming against them, or they could take it personally. He's like, even though you're there for their good. And I think that that's something in my head. The reason that I had to get out of management is because it's just consistently trying to find a new avenue to do the same thing. Like, there is no SOP when it comes to management. And I get that we work in creative fields, and this is the entertainment business. But if there's not a standard operating procedure, we're lowering our efficiency and our effectiveness, because I'm trying to recommunicate or alternately communicate things to you that should be just here's a text, here's an email, whatever, here's what you need to be doing. But I'm nervous that you're going to take it as if I'm upset at you because I followed up with you 3 times. So I got to figure out how to deliver it in an email, but then talk about it in a meeting, but not single you out. And hopefully you'll listen to me. And it's like, it's so ineffective. As somebody who's an intelligent business leader, if I have to pull in all of those factors to make your business work, what are we actually doing? And that's the thing that I feel like is always missing. It's like people complain about managers, but it's like we have no ownership or equity here. And you're upset because I said it in a way that you didn't enjoy in that moment. Like, it's just, I told y'all last week that I just started, I got invited to speak at UT, but I got on the phone with the students who lead the organization that I'm going to be speaking at. And they've actually asked me to come on as a mentor now. And it happened because I was talking to them on the phone, and I was asking about their setup. They have a record label at UT, student run record label. It's been in existence, I think, like 15 years, which is super cool. And I just started talking through them through some stuff. And they said they've had a huge turnover in their program of managers leaving because the artists won't answer them, or they mistreat them, or whatever. And I'm like, we need to emphasize the importance of the management and the team that's around the artist, and not the artist. Because I said, respect to the art. The art has to be here. This is not me shitting on artists, but a great manager and a great team can make almost anything go, because the rule is, if you're consistent, you win. That's just the way the world works. If you show up, you win. That's why the tortoise run the race. But artists are rabbits, they're hares. So they think because they're skilled and talented and fast that they can just sleep at the halfway point and still win. And it's like, man, I think the industry now has to shift to where it's like the people who have put in the work and the thought process on the business side really need to be honored in the proper way. And this is outside of me talking about equity splits, all those things. It's like, what's the outlier here? Is it the good business, or is it cool art,
Erinn, I love that metaphor because I've lived that so many times with artists. I was in a group way back, actually in Austin. I finally left the group. There was a lot of stuff going on. The rapper was stealing all types of stuff. I wasn't getting paid for producing any of the music, but she would, and it was a duo / trio when they felt like including me in it as a third member. But I remember she would berate all of us and was always like, man, I do so much. I work so hard. And even back then, I knew she was full of shit, but it was the turtle versus the hare factor, where it's not so much that they're running fast, it's that their wheels are spinning fastly. You know what I mean? So it's like they look at their wheels and they're spinning. a lot of people are like that. They look at their wheels and how fast they're spinning. They're like, wow, I'm really going places, but they're not paying attention to their surroundings. They're not going anywhere. So it was like what she was doing in maybe a 2 weeks time, I could do in a day. And so somehow that was grounds for her. And I wasn't managing. I was just the producer and DJ of the group. But there was this expectation that we all need to do what she says because she was the leader. And I think this happens in scenarios that aren't music related too. And I'm sure, Dame, you were in the corporate world. I'm sure that management structure created a lot of animus between management and associates and CEOs and all that. I don't know. I've never been in that world. I know when I was working traditional jobs, if you had a supervisor or a manager who was, consistently giving you tasks and changing protocol up and it just wasn't effective, you would stop listening to them. Now, the difference is, like Erinn said, there's no SOP for music, number one, which means there's not really any proof that what you're telling them as a manager, what you're suggesting is going to work. And there are so many factors that could contribute to it working or not working, because a lot of it's just kind of you're flying by the seat of your pants. But number two, I think most importantly is when you're working a traditional job, just because somebody doesn't like what you're saying and is sick of hearing your voice doesn't mean you lose that job. You stick around and you're effectively, in most cases, forced to reconcile those communication differences. They have a sit down. You have to go to HR. You have to create a communication plan. You have to get on the same page. Then if it just absolutely doesn't work, something happens. They figure out who's at fault and they fire them or they transfer them. When you're managing an artist, if they don't like something you're saying for no reason, they can just be like, nah, I'm going to find a new manager. Or well, why? I don't like that you told me to get on Instagram every day. Okay, but you should. Nah, fuck all that. Okay.
I think at the end of the day, like, we're humans too, right? And like the mental jujitsu that's required to get some artists to do the most simple things, you're eventually going to get tired of that shit. And again, that's why I think so many quality managers get run out, because it's like you eventually just think to yourself, like, why am I doing this? Like, why do I have to jump through all of these hoops just to get this person to answer an email or to get up in time for an interview? That is wild. Especially me coming from the corporate world, it was really hard to adjust to that, because it's like, there's no way this behavior would fly anywhere else. Like there was nobody like that at Deloitte. That was the last corporate job that I was at before I started Funk Volume. But like, there's no way you'd have to deal with anything that trivial in terms of returning an email or showing up or waking up. And it's like, I'm kind of through jumping through all of these hoops and performing this mental jujitsu just to get somebody to do the most simplest of tasks. And that's why I'm saying now that things have shifted to like almost every artist is independent now. Like, you can't be like that. You cannot be like this. There's not that many people out here that are going to be willing to put up with your bullshit, or that understand how to perform the mental jujitsu required to get you to do the most basic of things to even give yourself a semblance of a chance at having success in the music industry.
But I think that's the narrative. That's what everyone believes, because when you go independent, you're a rebel. You're going against the corporate structure. So you have to be the antithesis of the corporate structure, which means you have to be the opposite of what Dame at Deloitte would be. I'm not putting on a suit and tie and showing up for a 9 to 5. Fuck that. I'm a rebel. I'm going to just sit around and get high all day and go on the internet and tell people fuck you all day. And it's like, okay, well, it's not, that's not how that shit works. Like, if you're trying to fight the establishment, you have to be better than the establishment.
Exactly.
You have to be better prepared, better utilized. Mm-hmm. No movement. I'm not trying to compare music to like social movements, but no social movement ever succeeded by being sloppy. You know what I mean? And that's
The artists that I'm seeing, and I'm sure there are teams, there's a lot of teams that are still a mess and they find a way to make it work. But I'm seeing more and more teams that are super organized, super professional, that can start making sure that they're producing consistently. They have a system for things. And that's a big part of why they're starting to see progress. It's those teams. And it's just makes life easy. Not easier, right? It's still hard to do this, but like, it just makes things easy. Like, why add on the additional stress of the bullshit? Like, why? And again, that's probably why I'm not managing any music artists to this day, because I just don't want to step into that. And I have a wife and I just can't do this.
Well, in defense of sloppy artists, I think sometimes that can work. And when a manager steps in, they don't really understand how it can work. So they maybe try to sometimes impose a lot of, structure that they would see as necessary that isn't. But that's so incredibly rare. Like, if there's an artist out there that's flying by the seat of their pants and they need a system, but it's still working. They're still playing shows. They're still building fans. They're still creating output. They're still consistent. I kind of look at that as one of those toss-ups. It's like, either you systematize it as much as you can, but don't step on the artist's toes if it's working, and you just do your best to play your role, or maybe it's just not the right fit. But that's so incredibly rare. I myself have never experienced that. But I could see like a producer, where I'm like, all right, producer, I really need you to start sending me beats every week. And they're like, why? I just get high all day and I send a beat to Playboy Cardi and I get a placement. I'm like, touche. If that works for you, that works for you. And I'm saying that hypothetically. I don't manage producers.
Yeah. Now, let's move on to the next. The last thing I will say before we move on to the next topic, I think that, in the if you want to call them glory days of the music industry, where it was bringing in, so much more money for artists at labels, I think artists kind of just built the reputation where they can do that and just kind of get away with it, and it is stuck. That kind of behavior has kind of just stuck even through the transitions that the music industry has gone through. So that, people just kind of put up with the shit. But I just don't think it flies in this environment. Even it shouldn't have flown then. You should have put it. But I think, people were, collecting bigger checks. There wasn't, so many people getting laid off from these major record labels. They were just kind of like, I'm still getting my check. Fuck it. Let them do it. It's getting charged to his or her budget anyway. They're just going to stay in this deal longer because they're fucking around. And now this video shoot is 5 days. It was supposed to be 5 hours, but they don't realize that that's going back to needs to be recouped, and that's going to extend the life of their deal for another 2 years. So let them fuck around. So anyway.
Can I just say something? Because for our audience, I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm not like that. I don't smoke a lot of weed, or I'm clean, I'm ready. But it's like, I can give you just a quick example. Like, I have some friends who are artists, and I have a friend who works in corporate and has an offering and was like, oh, I think that I would like to sponsor this thing that they have going on. I connected them 20 days ago. Has the person no drugs, nothing? You know what I'm saying? Like they're clean, whatever. And this isn't. It's not. It's an email. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like so, and talented people making money, self-managed, and it's like I have sat and heard them say like, we don't know why it's not going and working. I don't know either. But I can tell at the speed that you answer, and I'm somebody who doesn't believe I don't answer every email in 24 or 48 hours. Like sometimes it's 72, sometimes it's a week. It's a priority list for me. But I do believe that like 20 days to answer an email when I've already done the heavy lifting. Like, like they want to sponsor you. Answer the email. Let's have a conversation. Like, I'm not taking no bread myself. I set it up. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes people, and I want to give real world examples, y'all. It's not about you fucking around all day, every day, and not wanting to work at all. It's about you not understanding that certain habits lead to the things that you're waiting for. If you can't complete things, especially when there are people in the room that can change your life, it's not even like, will this one transaction make money or get me signed or get me to the next level? It's, am I a trustworthy person to bring things back to? You know, am I somebody who will show up and rise to the occasion every time? And 9 times out of 10, in fact, 10 times out of, I've never met an independent artist who rises to the occasion every time. That's fine. I don't rise to the occasion every time, but I will say I rarely ever meet people who rise to the occasion 50% of the time. And that's why a lot of people aren't very successful, just globally, not just with artists. And artists, you got to take a good look at yourself and say, am I part of the problem that I don't realize I need to solve, you know?
Well, speaking of artists who aren't part of the problem, I'm intrigued by this little note here that says Pitbull is a genius. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes. Do you have the video? Would you be able to roll the video? Because I think it's fascinating the way he sets it up.
Let me refresh.
Naming rights to a college football stadium for $6 million. But the terms of the deal are actually genius. Mr. Worldwide agreed to pay Florida International University $1.2 million per year for the next 5 years to rename FIU Stadium to Pitbull Stadium. But the name is actually the least important part of this deal. That's because it also guarantees Pitbull perks like 2 suites for 40 people at every game and having his vodka brand sold at the stadium. As a part of this deal, Pitbull agreed to create an anthem for FIU, post about the school on social media 12 times per year, and appear at one athletic fundraising event annually. However, the real genius in this deal is the stipulation that Mr. 305 gets to use the stadium for 10 days every year, presumably for concerts. Now, according to Forbes, a 20,000-seat stadium like this would normally cost an artist at least $20,000 per night to rent out, meaning Pitbull is getting an extra $200,000 in value out of this deal while also getting all of his other perks. I may have underestimated Mr. Worldwide.
Pitbull's come a long way.
I mean, I think there's so many incredible things about this. So FIU is in Miami, Florida Intercontinental University, and he's Mr. 305, so he's doubling down on his brand, but he's diversifying. So as they go into the thing, they're like, he has naming rights. So Pitbull Stadium, okay, brand recognition automatically. Now he has a distribution mechanism that guarantees sales of another product that he has as well. So he's guaranteeing he's making money, right? Then he has a box so he can court sponsors, he can court other people, and he has access to the field, which means he can throw his own concerts, all these. I feel like the name, and everybody's like, the naming rights in and of itself is already brilliant, but he is actually getting more, if I'm not mistaken, than what he spent. What did they say the field to rent it? The
20,
cost 000. Of the rental. What'd you say?
It was 20,000. So they're saying he's getting 200,000 in value, but that's not taken into consideration. That's in kind value.
Right.
You so throw a show. You're Pitbull. You throw a show. You're going to bring out Flo Rida and the Yin Yang Twins and Rick Ross and who knows who else, and that's going to get you some money because 20,000 seats. I think. How many seats was it?
Yeah, I think it's like 20,000. And even if he closes off half the field and is only playing to the 10,000 facing in one direction, it's genius because and he doesn't even have to do a concert. He could have like a field day. He can do a celebrity football game. There's so many he could do a festival. He could, so there's just like so many things he can do there, which is so intelligent. And then when he does the festival, who's the only vodka that's going to be sold there? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like he's generating revenue from being a smart business person. Obviously, shout out to his team because we were just talking about managers. I'm assuming this isn't all originating from him, his lawyers, his managers, agents, all those. I just think things like this are smart. This is where I personally have seen that I excel is creating uniquely strategic partnerships with people and finding ways to maximize a deal. And I think that if artists can start to take this as an example, I remember when Akon first got signed. Akon made his label, his major label sign the subsidiary that he was signed to. So everybody's like, oh, that's cool. But when you dug into it, he owned the subsidiary. And the location that he was recording at was a studio that he owned. All the engineers were on his staff. So when the label said, oh, you have $100,000 recording budget, he just got to pocket an extra $100,000 up front. And I think in his deal, parts of it were non-recoupable. He was one of the first artists when I was younger. I think I was in high school kind of hearing about this, that I'm like, oh, whoa, you don't have to just take what they give you, you know? And I think Pitbull is an incredible example of this. I think it's cementing his influence in Miami. And as he's aging out of maybe the like global tours all the time and things like that, he's establishing himself as a hometown hero and giving himself the ability for years and years and years to set up more wealth, especially because now if you're selling, liquor to college kids, which is rare, a lot of the stadiums didn't allow that for a long time. So now if you're selling, okay, if this is the vodka that I know, well, when I go out to the club, this is the vodka that I'm going to be asking for, and so it's in a city like Miami where you're getting so much traffic and so many people drinking. It's just, I don't know. I think this whole thing is genius. It's very fascinating. This is a true business move, and I support it and champion it for things like this.
Yeah. And on the flip side, the school, especially with, so much competition for talent with these NIL deal situations, making the school more attractive so that people want to go there, attracting more brands that might be able to put bread into some of these athletes' pockets so that you can get better talent. It's just a win-win all the way around. And some people might say, well, this is Pitbull. He's huge. He's got a lot of money. He's a big star. You can think this way on a smaller level, right? Of course, you're probably not in a position to do the same thing that Pitbull is doing. But is there a local business that you can partner with that makes sense in your community? Is there a small business that you can start? There's a homie of mine that I hoop with. He just bought a dry cleaning business. And we connected with him the other day because Ja's going to shoot some skits there. So we're going to promote the dry cleaning business. He's going to let us shoot there. It's going to throw him some extra bread to because I think he did get most of the clientele from the existing dry cleaning business, but, I'm sure the bread that we throw him can help him, initially as he's drumming up more business. But there's a lot of different creative ways, and that's why this is called the Music Entrepreneur Club, just to think about your business, think about ancillary businesses that you can start or build. I know one of the things that I wanted to do, and I've never said this out loud, and definitely not on a podcast. It was unfortunate the Funk Volume folded when it did, because I seriously was interested in taking over. We had a skating rink called Skateland in the Valley growing up. That's where you would go to skate. And they were closing down. It would have been so dope if we could have taken over Skateland, rebranded it, and kind of done something similar, but on a smaller level to what Pitbull is doing. We would have full control over kind of the experiences that happen there, the music that gets played there, the events that take place. So hopefully people don't just listen to this Pitbull story and are like, oh, I can't do that, and just throw it to the side. Think about like why he's doing it, the different effects that it's going to have. Because the why you can put into your thought process and possibly do something similar on a smaller level. Because I think artists need to think more creatively about how they're pursuing music and how they can differentiate themselves from other artists that are trying to do the same thing.
And Pitbull's probably not playing with his own money 100% in this situation. I mean, he has the vodka company, which... yeah. I'm sure isn't 100% owned by him. So there's, I don't know, but when we're talking about millions, that's usually what these people with money tend to do.
And it could be his money because they're saying he's paying it yearly. So he even is really smart because he bought himself time. It's like he's probably going to be generating that revenue by year 2 or 3 from that deal, if not year 1. So it's like he'll be paying them off the money that he made. So I think it could be I'm with you. I think a lot of intelligent people don't, but it may be his money because it's not all coming out up front.
Well, either way, it's the right demographic for him. It wouldn't make sense for like Sexy Red to do this, just because she's a newer artist and that music isn't really what the parents of college age students are going to dance to. But Pitbull that's his demographic.
Yeah, it's dope. I mean, go right in line with this brand. Mr. 305 having a stadium right in the, I'm assuming the area code in where that's at is 305. I'm assuming the whole of Miami.
Yep. He's right in the heart of Miami. Yep.
Yeah. Because in LA, we got hella area code. LA is so big, 213, 323, 310, 818. Like, dope. Well, definitely a dope story.
Speaking of artists from the Southeast region, Timbaland, and I think I was watching this as one of you sent me this. Timbaland was using AI, specifically Suno, which is an AI platform that's currently being sued by the labels for one of his songs, and not for exactly him making a beat, but him actually completing a song. So he had AI write a song to a beat that he composed, and they created this piece of content.
You heard me say I want a female singer on this track. You went to Suno. Okay, let's hear it.
Now there's a harmony. And that's the B section. This is either the hook or the pre-chorus, but they stopped it there. So, I don't know. One of you sent me this. What are your thoughts?
Shit. I mean, obviously it sounded good. I think, people got to start figuring out how to use this to their advantage. Every artist is in a different situation. So if I was an artist, I'd definitely be trying to figure out, how to best use these new tools to my advantage, whether it's ideas. If you don't have anybody, I think you should be building your network so that you have different people to feature on your record. So you shouldn't have this problem. However, if you don't have people that you reach out to for collaborative songs and things like that, turn to AI. At the end of the day, if it sounds good, that's all that people really care about. I know that you guys might have a different opinion. But yeah, I mean, people push back on auto-tune and, not Pro Tools, the Fruity Loops. And it's really, this stuff is just a tool, in my opinion. But Erinn, you look like you disagreed a little bit. What's up?
I mean, I think the way that it's set up is like Timbaland being like, the guy was like, how you want, I wanted female vocals on this. It's like, Timberlake could have like tweeted and had 1,000 people send back a great vocal. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's interesting, funny to me that the positioning is like, clearly you have vested interest in this product. You're Timberlake. Like, you don't need a female. You probably have studio interns, and your secretary is probably an incredible singer because she just wants to be a proximity. You know what I'm saying? So that part to me was a little bit funny. Shout out to the marketing. It's effective.
If you had to guess, I mean, obviously we don't know. People posting videos all the time, but like, do you think this is like a stage reaction, like a stage? This isn't like an in the moment.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Because why would you mention the software that you're using by name? You know what I'm saying? Nobody's like, oh, load up the pull up the Ableton. It's like nobody's saying that. He was like, yeah, Suno. You know what I'm saying?
And Suno back in May raised $125 million, so I'm sure they have a lot of money to pay influencers like Timbaland.
Timbaland's probably one of the investors. He's probably
I was going to say that
120 million raise.
I was going to, because a lot of people like Will I Am and a bunch of producers who you would have thought would never invest in ushering in a product that could potentially replace and automate what they became legends doing. That's what they're doing. So
it's kill or be killed pain. So if I'm a millionaire and I'm in my 50s and I got kids who are soon going to have my grandkids, and I know this shit is coming regardless, I might as well invest in it and win versus telling everybody, don't use AI, don't use AI, don't use AI. Then you're the old head that nobody wants to talk to anymore. So for me, this is just like, I got to be careful with my words, but it makes sense what they're doing. I'm not saying that I don't necessarily love this, but like, I get it. It's kill or be killed. You might as well be like, Timbaland does not need this. Timbaland could sing it himself and pitch it up. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, Timbaland doesn't need this, but shout out to Timbo for getting his bread, I guess.
Well, it's actually a really tame video because, you know, that was just a melodic, you know, and a lot of songwriters work this way. When I was working with, well, I'm not going to say, it doesn't matter who it is, but there was I'll say the big songwriter's name. It was Charlie Puth. How do I say his name? Erinn, you know.
Charlie Puth.
Puth. Okay. So incredibly well-known solo artist, but accomplished songwriter. He's writing all the pop hits. I know he wrote Stay for the Kid Laroi, for example. So he's still very much an active songwriter and you know, at the top of the pop echelon. But he did that too. He wrote a song just like that. He wrote nonsense words and just vocalized throughout all the melody and even harmonies to nonsense words, just like what we saw in that Timbaland clip. And then had another songwriter write the lyrics. But again, just because that's what they're doing, well, they're humans doing that. You know what I mean? And so we've covered, for example, the Tiffany Red situation where she was bringing light to the plight of songwriters, how little they get, how the industry is continuing to encroach on the little piece that they get when they write a song. And so now with this, you know, we're completely replacing them. The crazy thing is, with those AI platforms, you could have just typed the lyrics in. Timbaland could have typed the lyrics in and gotten a full reference, and then either release that as an AI song and maybe you know, pulled a Mike Smith. I'm not saying that he would do that, but you know, you could do that, or just shopped it to one of his artists, either an established artist. You could have been like, you know what, this sounds like Sierra. It kind of did. Here, it's in her range. Or maybe he has new artists on the roster that he's delivering songs to. Hey, the song is completely written. I don't have to pay a songwriter. I don't have to wait for a songwriter. I don't have to split equity with a songwriter. And so, you know, I think for someone who's already rich and established and is just going to make more money before the bubble bursts, hey, yeah, that's capitalism. For the rest of us, because I see a lot of producers who are like, this is great, I love this, you know, I don't want to deal with a songwriter. It's like, you don't want to deal with a songwriter because you maybe are antisocial, maybe you don't want to network, maybe you are lazy, maybe, I don't know, it could be a number of reasons, but ultimately they hand you a shiny gun and say, kill that songwriter over there. Well, as you're pulling the trigger, you suddenly feel the barrel of another shiny gun from a rapper who has very same tools, and they're about to pull the trigger on you. So keep that in mind. But also, Dame was saying, you know, Timbaland doesn't want to be seen as the old man yelling at the cloud when new technology emerges. He actually received a lot of criticism earlier. It was last year, almost a year ago to this day. for, do you remember this name?
That was Erinn that mentioned that.
No, but I'm saying, do you remember this last year when he was getting criticized for using AI to create a Notorious B.I.G. song?
Yeah.
So that happened, and he at the time wanted to create an entire album, but I think because of the backlash, he didn't. Because after these articles came out talking about the controversial response and the backlash he got, I'll read an article on Business Insider. It said, when Timbaland posted an Instagram video earlier this year of him using artificial intelligence to recreate the voice of the late Notorious B.I.G. on one of his own beats, he was met with largely negative reaction. Man, this just doesn't feel right, though. One fan commented on the video. Such comments aren't going to stop Timbaland from using the technology. Obviously not, because we're here a year later. In fact, he's planning on making an entire posthumous Biggie album using it. I don't think that happened. Because we haven't heard. I think the controversy from the fans actually did stop that project. Maybe not. Maybe it's completely done, and I'm just gonna be eating my words in a month or two. But I think it did stop. So the court of public opinion does hand sentences out. It certainly does. And speaking of courts, Suno, I think the last update was the last update, but very, very clearly and unequivocally admitted on training major label-owned music. Their counter is they've accused labels of misusing copyright. So CompleteMusicUpdate.com writes, Suno has admitted it used music owned by the major record companies and us. Don't get it twisted. If they're so bold that that's why the Cash Money AP and the Honorable Cino producer tags were coming up, because they produce hit records for the Universal Music Groups and the Warner Music Groups. But if they're doing it to them, they're damn sure doing it to your NBA Youngboy type beat. They're damn sure doing it to a Ted Parks song that's not affiliated with a major label. But anyway, they insist they're doing so under American copyright law, and they're talking about fair use, and they're claiming that the majors are just trying to shut down new competition. So it's funny. It's like you're watching a movie. It's like a Batman movie. Right, but instead of Spider-Man, it's two Venoms. Because these are not superheroes. The labels are not superheroes, and the AI companies are not superheroes. They're acting like they're Robin Hood with, like an arrow pointed at each other. But really, it's like two Elon Musks with muskets pointed at one another. So, I got to find the humor in this, because this is just nihilism. That it's tempting me to just jump into the pool of nihilism. I don't know. Sorry, Erinn, what were you going to say?
I think, to me, just on a practical standpoint, the reason that I don't love this, and I don't even want to say this out loud because I don't want to inspire this, but I know it's going to happen. There's going to be a pretty well-known producer, like you said, who either throws hey, ChatGPT, write me a love song or whatever, Suno voice, and they're putting out music so that they can get, like you said, all of the rights to everything. And then it's just like you're taking it to the label and you're like, oh, it's da-da-da artist. And it's like, oh, no, they don't want to do a meeting. They're super clandestine, and you're just like, because companies can put money behind these sounds. So if they partner with a producer or anybody, if you're smart, you do the whole thing in AI. And now you get, that deplorable AI artist that was made during 2020, 2021. And he was like, saying the N-word, and he was like biracial, and he was like really destructive. He was essentially cosplaying hip hop culture that I think was, some of it was a fair judgment, like the way that he was presented, but it was all white people behind him. So it was like, damn, this is exactly what you think of us. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is what the AI is feeding out. But I feel like we're just about to be doing that. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. It wasn't as accessible then to where everybody could do that. So it was like this major player was behind it and then it got shut down because public perception was really hurt. This is just about to happen, and people are going to be like, oh, it's shrouded in mystery. Oh, this person, because like there are some clandestine artists right now that are succeeding really well. Like one is Salt. I love Salt. They're a group, there's rumors about who they are. And like, I know, it's like Lil Sims and it's Cleo Soul and Cleo Soul's husband. But like for a long time, people didn't know who was behind Salt. It's a collective. It's really beautiful, the music they're making. It's dope. But I think this creates an opportunity for people to be like, or do the Her thing where it's like shrouded in mystery, but it's really just all AI. And it's because somebody wants to take all the money, not exactly like the guy that we covered last week that you mentioned, but similar. I feel like this is what it's ushering in. And I'm not going to be the old head in the room to say, don't use AI. But I believe because there's no place to say, this is what responsible consumption looks like. This is what the mainstream morality is, because there is no such thing as mainstream morality. I think it's just the wild, wild west that keeps opening up. And if the originators of the technology are already just violating us off the jump, what do you expect the people who are coming from a system that's already created cannibalism to do? There's just more depravity down the line. So for me, it's a hard place to be. I think AI has its place. I think all of this technology is beneficial, but just like the guy who created AI said in his 2020 interview, he's like, it's already too late. We're fucked. Like we're just doomed.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be that doomsday person, but I'm not looking at this applauding, and I'm not excited about it. And I'm not saying, man, just find the best way. I use ChatGPT regularly for business. I understand it, but like, I don't enjoy this. And I think I use it more to have an understanding of it and not to be scared of it. I use Otter. Like I've used a lot of these things, but I don't like it. And I'm on record saying, I think this shit is crazy. I know Siri started out as, it's all been here. We've been coexisting with it. But I think too many people would like to default for this to just be their easy button. And it's like you're killing yourself because you want ease. That's like the world in a nutshell these days.
Well, and a lot of people will say, like we used to have horse-drawn carriages and now we have cars. Boo-hoo, big deal. Technology replaces the old and ushers in the new. And it's like, yeah, but this technology replaces people, not technology.
But it doesn't necessarily make it easy. It does it in terms of success. It might make creating easy, but these tools are open to everyone. So, I mean, you're still going to have a rough time making it in music. How are you going to differentiate your brand? How are you going to, present yourself? How are you just going to get people to like you? Because ultimately, your music sounds better if people like you. That's probably how most artists get away with their music. Like the music is not like far and away like way better. It's like, nah, they just like that person. They like what they represent. They like what they stand for, and how they present themselves on social media. So
that's the truth. But do the labels really understand and exemplify that? Because I don't think they do. And that's, we talked about how music is just not lasting anymore because it's all about virality. So the labels make a killing off one viral hit and then just hop to the next. So if we use that model and eliminate the need to pay an artist in advance and give them royalties and give them equity.
I'm typically never addressing labels or artists on labels. Like, we talked about this, I don't know, 2 episodes ago, or maybe an episode ago, just what the labels are investing in. The labels aren't investing in any artist long term, I guess, unless you're like the top of the top. So I think the labels got it fucked up to begin with. The things that we talk about here is for, independent artists trying to create, individual businesses. So,
but it's going to affect those artists.
Stop signing people, though. I think they're just going to go for the catalog play. I think they're going to do a ton of, when I say people, I think they're going to do a ton of AI, secret artists, or just like pretty faces. They're going to start signing influencers, making the AI. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just think I think it could be going, but I'm with you, Dame. It's like we're not focused on what they're doing. It's like, how are you as an independent artist going to differentiate yourself. So I don't want to be a doomsday person. I think there is hope for creative people. And I think this is going back to our first point. This is why great music with a great team really matters. When you care more about the humans and the people involved in this, and you're not just so set on you being the talent, because, and I hate to say this because people are going to be like, this is what the business types always say, but it's like, damn, if you can be replaced by AI now, the team really does differentiate you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to make good, intuitive, heartstring music. And I think that that's the beauty of humanity. But like, let's think about the way that we approach our business models as independent people these days, you know, because it really matters now.
The team has always mattered. But again, especially today, as independence is kind of put to the forefront, like your team, how you structure the team, how you construct your team, how you communicate with your team is crucial. I know we got to wrap this up. We got about a minute left. Payne, you want to close us out?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's something that's not depressing. You can get premium music distribution for free for 3 months. You can upload a lot. You can upload an entire catalog. I'm looking at you, producers. You probably have hundreds of beats that are just sitting on your hard drive that you think are pretty good beats. People love listening to instrumental music. Don't let people tell you that they don't. Drop some of that on the platforms. Go to tolost.com, use the code MEC for 3 free months. Free premium music distribution. Get your music on all the platforms, monetize it. And if you don't like the way Too Lost works, then don't sign up. You don't lose anything. But if you do like it, and you probably will, it's only $3 a month. So that's a really inexpensive investment in your musical future. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you supporting. Appreciate you commenting. Leave a comment if you have any questions that you want us to answer on the show, or any topics that you want us to cover, because we do get a lot of suggestions that are helpful. So we appreciate that. But until the next episode, peace.